So
That, I mean,
Yeah, this is what I wanted.
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Hey everybody, I'm Matt Hammett. I'm a musical artist and an author, and I'm an ambassador for Save the Storks.
I am Jules. I also work for Save the Storks as a communications manager, and I'm a mom.
Awesome.
And I also do some music and writing, so
Yes, you do.
we've got a little connection there.
Yeah, we were both like band kids, grew up around the music, playing rock and roll. So
Yep.
I've seen some of the old pictures of you. You were you're still cool, but
I'm still cool.
you were rock and roll. You're
Yeah.
very cool. You're still
Yeah.
rock and roll.
Yeah, I was a gutter kid.
Yeah. I love it,
I was
man.
a punk kid.
I love it. Me too.
Yeah.
So we both have a love for music. We both have a love for life-affirming work.
Yep.
And I would love to hear, you've shared a little with me off camera, but I would love to hear for the audience just a little bit about how you got involved in being a voice with Storks and celebrating life, even as a living and helping empower women to make choices for life. Tell me about that journey of how you got here.
Right, yeah, so I feel like for me, being pro-life was never a label that I put on myself. When I look back at my late teens or my early 20s, I just know that, I grew up in the generation where my body, my choice was just constantly being flashed. The rise of social media, a lot of celebrities kind of joining the train of the Women's March and stuff. And anytime the topic of abortion came around, I would just have like this weird gut feeling that I'm like, I don't know, And so I had to look into it for myself. And on an ethical level and even on a scientific level, I was like, this just does not feel justifiable. So for me, I just came from a very factual basics. I believe that every life is valuable, and I do believe that that baby inside is a life, and we can't deny that. And regardless of, your religious background or my religious background, I take all of that out and I say at the end of the day, it is a human issue. And so, yeah, that's kind of my, I would say, introduction to the pro-life movement. But with Save the Storks, for me, it was more about just that they're empowering moms. And as a mom, it was it was just serendipitous that I came in at a time that I'd already become a mom. And so seeing their mission and the work that they want to do, I was totally on board. So,
yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, so it was interesting because you didn't grow up in church, right? So I did, and I definitely grew up kind of under, in a pro-life environment, right? But still, I had a hard time resonating with the way that people did pro-life work a lot of times. I'd see the picket lines, and I'd see the pictures of people putting up aborted babies on posters. And although I'm all about people understanding what actually happens so they can be educated, it still seemed like some of those tactics to me just, there was an empathy or a care for the nuance of the human experience that just was missing in there, right? The relational component, being face to face with someone you might disagree with and having a real conversation as opposed to just screaming at them. Right? And I think that there was so much of that imagery propelled that I had such a hard time resonating with, oh man, that's not how I approach this issue. I don't even know how to get involved in it. And one of the ways that I ended up becoming more involved with Save the Storks as an ambassador, and then also getting involved more in pro-life work, was when my wife became pregnant with our third baby. And we found out that he actually had a severe heart disease. They told us he might not live. And when we started going to the different doctors and specialists, I was thinking as a dad, okay, well, these people are gonna help us save our child's life. And I was taken back a little bit because there were many times that we heard, hey, we think the right thing for you to do would be to abort. And it just was it kind of threw my mind, because like you, I just have this innate belief that I'm a valuable creation of God, and that everyone is, that life is valuable. And so, and of course, my son's life, he's my boy, that his life was valuable. And so I think that was the first time two things happened. One, we had this beautiful baby boy. He did have issues. He's had 3 open heart surgeries. But what the doctors told us would break our family, it was crazy, because his broken heart actually somehow made us more whole as a family. I see the way that his life has even as though it's been hard, has impacted and strengthened our family and made us better through that trial. And he's our son, and he's beautiful, and we love him, right? And his life is valuable. But secondly, sitting in that chair across from doctors who were telling us, hey, this is what you should do. You should terminate this pregnancy. I think for the first time I thought, what if I wasn't in a loving marriage? What if I didn't have support from my parents, or my wife didn't have support from her family? And I could kind of put myself for the first time in the position of a woman or a couple who might sit across from a doctor and feel that this was their only choice, to not have the resources and be so scared and so afraid. And I think that seeing the work that organizations like Save the Storks are doing, or life-affirming women's healthcare centers, and hearing firsthand the stories from moms whose lives are so enriched, and how grateful they are just holding their babies, saying, thank you for affirming life. Thank you for helping me believe I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, just the tears that I've seen started just giving me such a bigger passion for, like, yeah, how do we empower people to actually believe that they can step into motherhood? Or for me as a dad, how do I help a guy believe he can step into fatherhood?
Yeah.
And that he has what it takes even though he doesn't believe it, and that this is one of the greatest gifts that he'll ever have in his life, or for a mom, the greatest gift she'll ever have in her life.
And I think that's what it boils down to, is the fact that, you know, we look at society nowadays, and when it comes to life-affirming issues, it feels like there's just two polarizing sides to it. When I feel like we're coming at it from okay, if we're talking about choice here, real choice, then if you support a mom going through an abortion, shouldn't that same support, shouldn't it be relative, at least parallel a little bit on the other side if she chooses life? And I think that's the biggest issue right now, is that they go, okay, well, if she doesn't want to keep her child, then we shouldn't stand in her way, you know? But we're also saying, yes, but what if she does want to keep her child, and it doesn't feel like the support and the resources are available to her? Then what do? Do you just go, okay, well, good luck? Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's where we come in and we go, look, we don't judge here. You know what I mean? If that becomes your choice, it's sad. We won't deny that. But we also want to say to all the women who go, this is probably going to be the most difficult decision in my life, but I'm going to go forward with it, and I'm going to say yes. And then that's when we start rallying around her. And it's not just through her pregnancy, but it's beyond her pregnancy. Yes. And so we're taking it from a pro-birth, you know, type of view to a whole life perspective, where we're here for you now, but we're going to be here for you 10 years later, and 15 years later, and 20 years later. Because we believe in your value now until all the way. Yeah.
I think it's been one of the biggest lies that people have perpetuated about the pro-life movement, that we care about getting a baby born, but we don't care about the rest. When in actuality, you know, I travel around and speak for so many of these centers, and, you know, when they're doing fundraisers, help them raise money for what they're doing, and talk to the moms and talk to the people who are working, and see all the stories firsthand of how these centers are resourcing these women every single step of the way, even after birth. You know, they're doing that work even beyond. And so, you know, that's dispelled just through the truth of what the movement is actually doing. And I agree, though, that it's such a weird environment with all this polarization. Everything gets kind of boiled down to simplistic boxes or bubbles, right? Like the way we see things, like, oh, this is a conservative bubble, and if you believe this, this, or this, you're here.
Right.
And if you're a liberal, you're over here, and if you believe this, this, and this. The problem is, I think most people, their circles kind of cross, right? They're like, hey, I might feel this way about this issue, and like, you can't just say, I have to stop believing, like, oh, if you're believe in life-affirming healthcare for women, then you are pro-life and you are a conservative and we hate you, you know? Or if you empathize and haven't found your way to understanding the issue yet and still claim to be pro-choice, well, you must be a liberal and I hate you. You know, it's like there's this whole polarizing view instead of meeting in the middle to talk.
We can agree to disagree on a lot of things, but we can also find common ground. And I liked kind of what you were illustrating there a while ago about having that Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yes, this may be your set of beliefs, this may be your set of beliefs, but they're not black and white.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap. And I think that when we find that common ground, it's just points that we can agree on, where we know that, there is life. And should a woman choose to continue her pregnancy, we should show up for her.
Yep.
And I'm like, can you rebuttal that? Like, can you say that you wouldn't show up and support her? And I know that they would say, no, of course not, I would. And I'm like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So we don't have to be enemies. We
Yeah.
can actually be friends, at least on this.
I'll say we often want to choose the narrative that's the easiest based on what everybody around us seems to celebrate or accept, as opposed to really going like, hey, innately, like, is this the way it is? Is this a truth or is this not a truth? Like, is this good? Is life good? Or is it not good? And when people do things that we don't agree with, how do we still really love those people well, even in the decisions that we don't think are so good, that we think might be hurtful to them or to other people? Can we still love that person? I do think that is one thing I've seen in the life movement, is that all these centers that I've visited continue to reach out to women who have chosen to abort and say, we still love you.
Yeah.
Like, we still want you to come into the fold. We still want to see your heart heal from this.
Yeah.
And, I just think that has been something about this movement that has actually really spoken to me too, that I think over the years, the visuals that I have seen of what I thought it was, I've seen the truth of what it actually is behind closed doors.
Yeah.
The people who are on the ground, like Save the Stork says, love, compassion, action.
Yeah.
They're doing the work day in and day out with real people face to face. And I just think it's so beautiful to see with my own eyes.
Yeah, and we're creating a story of hope and empowerment for every woman, regardless of their past and regardless of what they're facing now. We're going to be here for you now and in the future. So this has been such a great conversation,
Yeah,
Matt. Honestly,
I
I
love it.
love hearing just your heart on these issues.
Likewise.
And it's great to get to just know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know we've worked in this organization together, but to
Yeah.
sit down and actually talk to you, it's been fun.
It
It's
has been
good.
fun. Thanks, Jules. Yeah, we really appreciate you guys joining us too for these conversations. And, we're going to keep having them. So if you like what you heard today, or you kind of have some burning questions or thoughts, keep coming back around, subscribe. And we're looking forward to having more conversations like this.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, cool.
You
Great.
get that 100-watt smile. Ding!